Yo, what's up, guys? It's KB. Thanks for tuning in to another video here on the Outside the Box Podcast YouTube channel. If you like the content you're seeing from us here, be sure to smash that like button, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on any future videos, leave a comment down below, and don't forget, hit that subscribe button. And now let's get into another original video here on the Outside the Box Podcast YouTube channel.
Welcome back to another episode of the OTB College Show. It's episode 9. It's Uncle Deej. It is nephew Hoots across from me. Don't forget to subscribe to the pod everywhere at the U Industries on Twitter, at the Underground Industries on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, all the places that you get, or Apple Podcasts, all the places that you get your podcast. And then don't forget to follow the main pod, OTBLacrosse, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere. That's youtube.com/OTBLacrosse. That is where video form of this podcast lives, along with exclusive content like Sporkle, interviews, and other cool things from our main OTB pod covering pro and international lives there. And then live updates on games as well. Follow my nephew across from me, Hoot Sport Media, everywhere. That's Hoot Sport Media everywhere. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the cool places. Don't forget to follow me at Uncle Deej12 on Instagram, SCS_next great on Twitter. You can find all my other socials there. And then don't forget to follow the man behind the scenes, Kyle Bennett, at KBIZZL311 on Twitter. And then it's KBizzle11 on Instagram. Follow him everywhere. Get locked in with him. Fridge Facts goes absolutely insane. Wow. But with that being said, excuse me. Whoa, what is going on? This episode of Outside the Box Podcast is powered by our friends at 47, truly the best headwear and apparel in the game. And with their vast collection of collegiate gear, they will make sure you're repping your favorite college lacrosse team all season long. So use our link in the description to shop with 47 and get free shipping on all orders when you join the 47 family. Just make an account, as it's free, FREE, all caps, free, and start earning points on every purchase you make and turn those points into free gear. Again, using our link in the description, shop with 47 and get free shipping on all orders when you join the 47 family. Shout out to 47 for being a proud partner of OTB and the official headwear partner of Underground Industries. Nephew, how we feeling?
I'm good. I'm a little tired, but we're going to make it through this.
I feel that. I'm also tired, but today was a big day for Unc. Unc bought a new car today. Got himself a 2021 Blazer, metallic red. Has a tow package on it. I didn't even get to tell you about that. I had a tow package on it. And it comes with a towing mode as one of my driving modes. So it also makes sure my engine doesn't blow while trying to tow extra weight. It's a very great car. Amazing car. So I'm really happy with that. Technically my first adult purchase. So Unc is really feeling the adulting life of things.
You're now a 2-car household, huh?
We're a 3-car household again.
3-car house. Wow.
Yeah. So this is what happened was I had a car. My mom had a car. And then her friend moved to Africa with his wife on a mission trip. He's going to be there for like 5 or so years. He sold his car to my mom. So that became like our backup car in case one of our cars was in the shop or an accident or something like that. Boom. I get hit. I get totaled out. I was driving the backup car. I now bought a car. And the car I was driving now returns to being a backup car. So we are a 3-car household. It's nice because then I also refuse the rental reimbursement. So I'm not paying extra on my insurance for something I'm not going to use.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So I'm happy with that. Life is great. I'm really excited to be driving a new car. But I'm also excited to be talking lacrosse. It's a Monday night, so it's time for us to dive into the weekend that was. You didn't get to shoot anything this weekend, but where do you want to start?
That's a good question. I don't know. There's I genuinely don't know. Ohio State Rutgers, maybe a 6-5.
Perfect. This game goes to overtime. Maybe not what a lot of people expected from this game. I don't know if you saw any discourse from this game or were able to see any of this game. Caleb Fayok actually left this game in the first quarter. Turns out he had experienced some kind of injury or was hurt in some kind of ailment during warmups, and he actually asked to be subbed out because he felt like he wasn't at his best to perform at his best. Backup comes in, does a phenomenal job. Ohio State ends up winning this game 6-5. Your thoughts?
I mean, that's crazy. I didn't know he got. I didn't realize he was not in the game. So when I saw 6-5, I was like, that kind of makes sense. So shout out to the backup. I guess that's crazy. But yeah, I mean, it's another game where just like I don't know how they do it, but Ohio State just plays at an incredibly slow pace, like week after week, and I feel like no one's really cracked the code on how to just like speed them up too much. Um, like the most that I've seen another team score against them was 9, I think it was, and that was when they were down at Air Force. And since then, they've had multiple games like this with a 6-4 against Denver, 6-5 this game. So it's kind of funny from that standpoint, but especially when you have a backup goalie in there, like you're already at a disadvantage. So for them to come out on top, especially with, I mean, they were sloppy. They turned the ball over a ton, for sure, a lot more than Rutgers at least. And it's like I feel like I've said before that, like Ohio State can just finds ways to win, even in games that don't feel like wins necessarily. And Rutgers just seems to be another casualty of that, unfortunately, to where it's like they're 7-1, but they don't feel like a 7-1 team at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, this was as close of a game as you could see. I mean, 34 shots for Ohio State, 41 for Rutgers, 15 on goal for Ohio State, 17 for Rutgers, 28 and 29 respectively on ground balls. Ohio State won 8 faceoffs while the Scarlet Knights had 7. 20 turnovers for the Buckeyes, 14 for Rutgers, 12 saves for Ohio State. I mean, that's kind of the real difference. 1 penalty for 30 seconds. That's the only penalty of the entire game. And then the overtime game, like, excuse me, Ohio State didn't even score on the man up. It's like this game was weirdly even. And like you said, Ohio State has played extremely slow all season. Nobody's really been able to speed them up. But I also don't feel like anyone has actually tried to speed them up. I don't know if it's something they're doing in their ride that keeps people from getting out in transition, but it doesn't really feel like anybody has tried to make the game an up and down track meet and like really has like pushed them to be a faster team. It feels like everybody's content with them taking time off the clock and being really slow and not getting a lot of shot opportunities off of their offensive possessions. And maybe like teams are okay with that because they're like, hey, if we can save the one shot or win the chase or, you know, get a turnover or whatever, like we limited them to 1 or less shots on every possession. Like we should win that game. And like, they're right. You should win that game. 90% of the time, 95% of the time, you should win a game where you're holding teams to 1 or less shots on every possession they take. But Ohio State is also figuring out how to make every single possession count. And if you're going to hold them to that, they're going to score. And then you have to score more than they are, and teams just aren't doing that.
Yeah, I'm checking too. Like Rutgers had a lead late too, into the third, and then didn't score again. So it's like they had another opportunity where like the other team had the game basically in hand and sort of collapsed. Um, so I don't. At this point, I'm just assuming that Ohio State's just going to keep winning because they can't seem to even play poorly and lose. So
And there's not anybody in the Big Ten that scares me to beat them
yeah,
except maybe Johns Hopkins. But even then, like I'm not sold on it.
even Johns Hopkins, I feel like is a little bit iffy at times. That depends what version of them you get that day.
100%. Like it's not they're a very Jekyll and Hyde team, so it's not like we can bank on them to be there and have that success and be a team that's gonna show up for sure. So the Big Ten might be Ohio State's to win, and that's such a disgusting thing coming out of my mouth as a Michigan fan of any form. Oh my God, shudders. Speaking of Big Ten, Penn State gets it done against Maryland. So at this point, I think it's safe to say Maryland has to win the Big Ten tournament to get into the big tournament. They're 3-4. Is that a safe assumption to throw out, or am I a little too early based off of their IPI and strength of schedule? And if they were to turn around and win the next 3 games and they're above 500, does that put them in a spot to be safely into the tournament based off of who they've lost to, how much they've lost by, when they lost to them, etc.?
I mean, you know how I feel about strength of schedule and all that stuff, and like you still got to win. Like I don't think it's good enough to say, oh, you lost really well. Like that's not. You were the presumptuous number one team in the country in the preseason. I don't. I'm not gonna be like, oh well, they played a lot of good teams though. So does a lot of teams, and that's just what it is. Assuming they come out this week and beat Michigan, they'll be 500 through 8 games, and then you still got to go play Ohio State, Rutgers, and Johns Hopkins. If they end up, winning 6 or 7 games, like, is that enough with 4 losses or whatever they end up with? Like, I just don't. I don't like the logic of they lost 4, 5, 6 times, but they played good teams. So I think they have to win out personally, which they very well could. Like, I'm not saying they can't, but it's just, to me, this has kind of been a season they didn't really predict at all. I don't think they tell you any differently. And I don't feel like we can kind of like set that precedent of, well, you played good schools, but you lost, so we're just going to give you a bid kind of thing.
I 100% agree. I don't like that idea. I like it was the same reason why I felt like Miami, Ohio 100% should have been firmly in the NCAA tournament field rather than playing a play-in, is regardless of their strength of schedule, they went out and beat every single team on their schedule during the regular season. Regardless of who you're playing, that is hard. You have to show up every game day for 40 minutes and beat the team across from you. That is not easy. We see teams try and go for undefeated at all levels, and a lot of them fail because it is hard to show up for entire games at any level every game you play. So I agree. Like, just because you lose to good teams doesn't make you a good team. Even if you're losing by 1 or losing every single one of those games in overtime, you're still losing them. You're not changing anything to win and be a better team. So why am I putting you in if you're not progressing to actually beat those teams? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. Looking at this game, the one thing that glares at me for Maryland is your leading scorer in this game is your LSM, who eventually had to go down to close D after you had an injury there. AJ Larkin had 2 goals. You get 1 from Leo Johnson, 1 from Zach Whittier, 1 from Braden Erksa, and 1 from Chris Lyons. Leo Johnson gave you 2 assists. Those are the only 2 assists. There was a 3rd assist from George Stamos. Those are your only 3 assists of the entire game on your 6 goals. Not that Penn State had a much better day. I mean, they only put up 10.
And they got blanked in a corner.
Right. Mac Hobbs had 2. Chase Robertson had 2. Kyle Lehman had 1. Luke Wallstrom, Jack Unantuno, Michael Ferroni, John Jude Considine, Mark Waters all had 1 as well. 2 assists from Kyle Lehman, 3 from Wallstrom, 1 from Ferroni. I mean, that's only 6 assists on 10 goals. So it's not like either one of these teams had a fantastic offensive day. This was, like as many people said, a mid-off. They said this game was going to be a mid-off, and they said the Virginia and Maryland game were going to be mid-off, and they both were. It was 2 teams playing against each other that really struggled. And you saw it out there and in the output that actually came out of the game. Lots of turnovers on both sides. Lots of points where people felt like, what is going on? What are we watching? What are we doing? Which is insane. From teams of their caliber, you don't think you would ever really see that. But I think both of them are really in dangerous waters. Like as much as we talked about Maryland being, under 500 and how many losses they have and where they'll get, Penn State isn't far ahead. Penn State, after this victory, they moved to 5-3. They lose 1 or 2 more games, and we're putting them in the same boat as Maryland. They're 500. We're asking, well, how many wins do they need to have to vacate some of the losses they have, or is that even worth it, depending on who they've lost to and how they've lost, or does it even matter who they've lost to and how they lost? Let's really just look at how many losses they have. It's going to be a tough sled for Big Ten this year if they're going to get more than one team in the Natty tournament.
Yeah, I don't know. Penn State's a weird team right now. Not even right now. The whole season they've been weird. Just you have games like this where they win 10-6 against Maryland and they lose 8-10 against North Carolina, or they blow out Cornell and Yale, and then lose a close one to Navy. Or they beat Princeton, lose to Nova. Stuff like that. I just don't have a good read on them, which is where I think they probably have a little bit more wiggle room. And the fact that they're already 2 games above 500 definitely helps, as opposed to Maryland, who's right now a game below 500. I mean, honestly, at this point, who's to say that the Wolverines can't come out and beat them this weekend? And if that happens, you're 3-5.
I would love that.
Do I expect it? No, but I don't ever expect the result that Penn State puts out either, and they consistently do the opposite of what I think is going to happen. So,
That's funny. They really do. They're very unpredictable this year, which is not something you ever want to hear as a fan. You brought up one team that edged out a victory this weekend. 5th-ranked North Carolina pulls out a 1-point victory over 16th-ranked Army, 12-11. Very low-scoring game for these two respective offenses for this year. Hill Plunkett picks it back up for Army. He had 3. Evan Plunkett gave 2 and 1. Gunnar Fellows had 1 and 2. Tyler Clark pitches in another. Braden Fountain had 2. Ben Calabrese poured in 1 along with Aiden Wessenborn, who had 1 as well. North Carolina getting their normal contributions. Caden Harshberger goes for 3. Petramala had 2 and 1. Ryo had 2 and 1. Duffy had 3 assists, couldn't find the back of the net. James Matan had an assist. Brady Wambach poured in a goal as well. Gary Merrill poured in 3. So they edge it out. 10 saves, only letting up 11 for Josh Marcus in net. You get a chance to peek at this game, or 20 saves for Sean Byrne, only letting up 12.
I was going to say, this could have been way worse.
This definitely could have been way worse. What a game from him. I didn't realize my man went absolutely nuclear net.
Yeah. And it's even more wild when you compare it directly against Josh Marcus's, just because he gave up 1 less goal, but literally had half the number of saves, which isn't necessarily a knock on him because, I mean, he probably wasn't seeing the same amount of rubber there, but absolutely insane that they kept this game to a 1-goal game, and really like those two middle quarters is what really propelled them.
Hear me out. North Carolina only put up 11 more shots on goal, and they only put up 12 more shots in general.
But if 11 of them were on goal and he had 10 more saves.
But he had an opportunity to save because it was 20, right?
Yeah, 20 to 10 saves.
Even if Marcus picks up 5 more, 15 to 20, that looks a lot better than 10 to 20. Like, he had an opportunity to close the gap is what I'm saying. Like, the gap didn't have to be as big as it was. Like you said, it changes things when you compare them directly to each other because it really shows how good of a game he had.
Yeah.
Insane. 20 saves in a game is just insane in general. Like, that seems record worthy, but I'm sure it's not because we're talking about Army.
There's probably some sicko out there that had like 30 plus saves sometime.
I had to. I just can't imagine that there isn't. I literally just
Team
can't
probably got
imagine
outshot by
isn't.
25, and dude was just back there making save after save.
Literally. They still lose the game like 15-8. But he had like 45 saves. See, you brought up Cornell, and they also had a very tight game this weekend. But now I just want to use Cornell to basically leapfrog and jump about and talk about Richmond. One of your running mate over on the run out, which shout out if you have a chance, go and check them out. They do a great job over there on the run out. Talked a lot about how like Richmond hasn't really beat anybody, and like the teams that they beat don't have good wins, and this and that. Like, where does this win rank for Cornell? How do we now factor in things, and how do we look at Cornell? And then does that boost the win for teams that have beat Cornell? After they beat Princeton, who many people were arguably saying was the best team in the country. Does that make the Richmond win over Cornell better? Is Cornell really a top 3 team, or is Richmond considered a top 3 team in the country now? A top 2 team? Maybe even considered to be the number 1 team after this kind of output? Or is this just one game and it shouldn't be factored into all of that because there's still a bigger picture? I'm just genuinely wondering. Because
I know you're not talking to me. It's just funny because I'm seeing you look at me say this all this.
You know what I'm saying? Like Cornell went out and did what they needed to. Waldman gives them a goal along with Brian Luzzy. He goes 1-1. Robinson goes 1-1. Perfetto 2-1. William Firth goes 2-3. Goldstein had 3-1. They got another goal each from Griffin McGovern, Michael Marshall, and Luke Gilmartin. And then Tully gave him 15 saves, only gives up 11 goals. They pull out a 13-11 victory. Meanwhile, it wasn't a slow day, really, for Princeton. I mean, Tucker Wade, 3-1. Palumbo, 2-2. Parker Reynolds, 1-1. Colin Burns, give him 2. Nate Kabir goes 1-3. John Dunphy had 2 goals. I mean, they got good input, 9 saves, 13 goals given up. That's a little bit of a difference there. But, I mean, this was a pretty even game as well. Princeton wins in ground balls, 39-33. They won in shots, 43-39. Shots on goal, 26-22. They won faceoffs, 16-11. They won the turnover battle, 19-13. So, I mean, it was a close game, but also outside of saves, Princeton kind of dominated this game. 2 penalties on Cornell, none on Princeton. They scored on one of their 2 man ups. I mean, everything pointed to really Princeton being able to win this game, and once again, goalies come out victorious for a squad.
Yeah, it kind of just felt like no matter how well Princeton did, it just was like inevitable that they were going to lose. And I mean, this is another team in Cornell that I think is just they look one way one week and they look a completely different way the next. And I mean, credit to them. If you're going to play the big dogs, you got to make sure you play them at your best, and they absolutely did that. As far as how does it affect a team like Richmond, I think you bring up some good points. To me, I think timing of when you play teams does also matter, but when you're playing a team like Cornell that I just got done saying is very sporadic at times, if they're able to go toe-to-toe with these, highly ranked opponents, then it kind of does help the case for other teams like Richmond or whoever else. So it definitely, and this is why rankings are so funny to me, is because we get down to nitpicking little things about does this count for this team but not for this team, and 4 or 5 weeks later now all of a sudden it matters and whatever, and especially when we'll get to Richmond in a second, but when you see what they did in their game and it's like, oh, they actually took care of business against the team they're supposed to, how does that factor in now versus a game like this where Cornell beat out Princeton by 2 or something along those lines? So yeah, the Ivy is a fun little gauntlet right there, but it's tough break for Princeton when, like you said, everything went their way except for the saves, and then ultimately, they gave up 2 more goals.
I mean, we're right there. You brought it up. We might as well talk about it. Richmond dominates again inside of the A10. Wins big over UMass, 21-7. They get dominant games. Joe Sheridan 1-2, Aiden O'Neill 3-4, Lucas Littlejohn 4-1. Daniel Pickard pours in an assist. Gavin Creo 3-1. Jake Riccardi 2-1. They got an assist from Ben Porter. Cole Hayden goes 1-1. Porter Barnett scores a goal. Nate Murphy had an assist. Thatcher Killen scores a goal. Leo Kane goes 1-2. Even Evan Leonardo had 2 goals. Braden Pennafeather had a goal. Tanner Huber an assist. Evan O'Neill a goal. Vincent Gaylord had an assist as well. 17 assists on 21 total goals. 8 saves for the goalies on 7 goals given up. I mean, not really a long day for them at all. Robbie Granera, I mean, he made sure his name was respected. 4 goals, 1 assist on 5 shots, 4 goals on net. Picked up a ground ball as well. Jack Tarowski had a goal. Thomas Bagnall had 2 assists. Aiden Drunznick had a goal. And then Dylan Johnson had a goal as well. 12 saves, 21 goals given up for the goalies there. I mean, this game was never close. Richmond proving that they're far better than their conference and that they are near the top in the country. I think everybody's really just waiting for next weekend when they play Notre Dame in Chicago, and that's going to be the real question mark for Richmond. Is like, okay, if they beat Notre Dame, I think everybody's going to be ready to call them the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah, but I think the downside of that, too, on the other hand, is that if they lose, everyone's going to say, see, they haven't played anybody. And that's a tough spot to be in, because at that point, if they keep Notre Dame in check but still lose, does that really discount their ranked wins and the domination of the teams that aren't ranked on their schedule? I mean,
and also it's like, sorry to cut you off, but it's also like, how are you then going to argue that those same teams that Richmond beat earlier are now nobody, but then account them as somebody for another team down the road? Well, they beat so-and-so. Well, when Richmond beat them, you said they were nobody. So are they nobody or are they somebody? I think that's also going to become a thing too. So it's like, Either you got to decide that the teams that Richmond beat were good and they just weren't better than Notre Dame, or Richmond hasn't been good at all and all the teams that they haven't beat were also not good because Richmond was better than them. Or maybe we're all looking at this all crazily because transitive sports don't exist, or transitive property doesn't exist in sports, and it really just comes down to who shows up and plays 60 good minutes that day. That's why March Madness is so crazy. That's why March Madness is so crazy as it is, because it really comes down to what team shows up that day and plays a good 40 minutes. It doesn't matter what you did in any game before that. Are you going to show up that day and play 40 good minutes? If not, you're going to go home. That's it. And at the end of the day, that's what lacrosse needs to turn to. Let's boost it up to 24 teams in the tournament. Give them a little bit, a little more teams a leeway, a few more auto bids in or whatever, or a few more at large, whatever, however you want to do it. But a few more chances, boom, who plays the best 60 minutes, call it a day. That's what sports are all about. Once you get to the pros, okay, it's a little bit different with the series and such, but for the most part, you're showing up to play one game at the end of the year. And the team that's better in that slot, that's the team that's moving on. Michigan, they're going down the slope. The women's team is all we have hope for on that front of lacrosse right now. They're 3-6. Put up 2 in the first, dropped to 0 burger in the second, only 1 in the third. Tried to crawl back in the fourth with the 5 spot, but it was far too late. Hopkins improves to 6-2. They put up a 14 spot. They win that game comfortably. I saw some other stuff on here. Air Force went to overtime against
Providence.
Yes, Providence, 18-17. Very high-scoring game. Insanity must have ensued there. But Air Force able to pull out the victory there. Colgate gets the best of Boston U, 14-12. Virginia winning back-to-back games this weekend. Took down Utah 16-11 over the week on Saturday. And then on Monday, they also took down Dartmouth 18-12. So maybe they're on the train. Speaking of 18-12, Syracuse and Georgetown. Cuse wins another ranked matchup. They do it inside the dome. They're 8-2 now after beating Georgetown, who is in trouble, but I also heard an interesting theory this weekend. Coming from the man, Brian Walker. Shout out Brian Knows Lax. Follow the boy on Twitter, Instagram, anywhere else. He said Georgetown still wins the Big East and makes a trip to the Final Four for MDW.
He said they're going to the Final Four?
Hey. He said they win the Big East and make a run to MDW.
Look, Brian hasn't been wrong a lot the last couple seasons, so
maybe he knows something we don't. He got a magic 8 ball over there or something.
Here's what I'll say. At this point, I wouldn't bank on it, on them making the Final Four. But would it shock me if later on down the line they end up making it and Brian's looking at us like, I tried to tell y'all? No, that would not shock me at all, because he's done that several times with his Syracuse boys over the last few years. So maybe. They still got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more games. If you win out, you're 8-4.
Do you think they're better than Denver?
Definitively, no. Do I think that they can show up and beat Denver, though? Yes. Just because I've seen multiple versions of Denver as well. that I like. If we're getting the Denver that just got done playing Syracuse, no, I think Denver beats them 10 times out of 10. But if we're getting the Denver that went and played, say, Ohio State, Cornell, then that's where I think Georgetown may stand a chance.
Yeah, I mean, Georgetown had a rough day this weekend. Schubert gave him a goal, Bickle a goal, Roy Connor 2-2, Liam Connor 2-5, Jack Ransom 2-1, Hayden Cody he poured in a goal, Natty Mason 2 goals, Joey Cesari a goal as well. 14 saves, 18 goals given up. Cuse on the other hand, Finn Thompson 3-1, Joey Spallina 2-4, Mikey Leo 5, Luke Roa a goal, Wyatt Hoddle 2 goals, Charlie Crafson a goal as well, Peyton Anderson 2 goals and an assist, Greg Elijah Brown a goal, Matt McEntee a goal as well, 9 assists on their 18 goals, 17 saves from McCool on only 12 given up. And you brought up Denver a little bit. Well, we both kind of did there. They also played on Sunday. They took on Duke, 6th-ranked team in the country, and almost ruined their perfect season. 8-7, Duke comes out with the victory, even though Denver held them to 2 scoreless quarters and a 1 spot in the third. Second quarter, the real problem for Denver. They let up a 7 spot and they got blanked. Poured in 4 in the first, 2 in the third, 1 in the fourth. What's your thoughts on this?
My thoughts are they had it in the bag and they took their foot off the gas the second quarter and they never fully put their foot back on it, but they sort of did. So I'm not totally like it's as a standalone game. Cool. Duke's had a good year. You know, you keep it close. That's twice in 2 weeks that you've lost to really good teams by 1 goal. But as a collective, it's like if you like we're talking about winning the Big East. If you even want to win the Big East, like you got to win some tough games, and I feel like they're just coming up just short. And I think a big part of that is just they're a younger team in general. I don't want to attribute any losses necessarily strictly on youth because you still have to like play well. But I do think it is kind of tough with the spot that they're in right now with the talent they have. And I mean, when you go up 4-0 and then the second quarter, you, like you said, get blanked yourself and give up 7 straight. And then you go back to dominating them the second half. Like, what is that? I just don't understand how that occurs. And honestly, I mean, they said on the broadcast too, like Denver had a chance to tie it at the end of that game again. So we saw it against Syracuse. We now see it against Duke where they have a chance right there and they failed to do so. So it's funny we talked about Georgetown because they have a good chance to bounce back against them this week, but it's like this was a big chance, I think, to jump in the standings, and now they're just going to drop again for the second straight week.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to lose close games against good teams and not like try and be positive about it because like that's not really like that bad of a thing, but you also have to be able to go out and close those games. You don't get better and you don't move into the positions that you want to as far as setting up postseason success if you're not able to win those type of games. And Denver just finds themselves on the outside looking in those moments one too many times.
Yeah, and I also just, again, I don't think Cody Malowski got anywhere near enough action, especially early on in this game. I mean, he had 2 goals, and they both came in the third quarter. I recognize that he's probably drawing the best matchup every week, and that's, a tough spot to be in when you look at their offense the last couple of years, and they had kind of some crazy talent around him that allowed him to be opened up a little bit more, but it's still just like, get him going early. Get him a first half goal. Get them a couple first half goals, just so that way by the end of the game or in the third and fourth, it's coming easier, because now they're playing from behind, and that doesn't ever really work out well. The fact that the last goal of this game came with 10:45 left in the fourth is ridiculous. Like, I mean, shout out to the goalies, I guess, but we got to get some type of offense late in games, and it can't just come on the power play. Don't get me wrong, that Syracuse game was awesome, but I believe at least 3, if not 2, of their last 3 goals in that game came because Syracuse was undisciplined and took penalties. It wasn't like they were out there, even strength, scoring a bunch of goals. And you look at, shots on goal, Denver had 9. They got outshot by 22. So
yeah, that's rough.
To me, it's more frustrating because you're right there against 2 top teams, and same exact situation plays out. Am I worried they can't win the Big East, though? No. But I digress.
Yeah, 100%. Those are very valid thoughts and concerns, in my opinion. Hopefully they're being listened to and taken into consideration. But quick run through of the notable things on the women's side of things. North Carolina remains perfect. They're 9-0 now after a 21-12 beatdown of Boston College, who is now 5-5 and is really having a rough start to the year, although they're playing very good competition. So maybe they'll benefit from that. Maybe they won't. 10th ranked Clemson improves to 7-4 after they take down Pittsburgh 11-10 in what was a very tight game. Syracuse over Virginia 6-5 in what was basically a snooze fest. It looks like Northwestern is starting to find their groove. They're 6-3 now after they absolutely demolished Oregon 17-3. Oregon blanked in the first quarter and then scored 1 apiece in quarters 2 through 4. So not a whole lot going for them there. Stanford improves to 10-0, remains a number 2 team in the country after a 14-8 victory over Arizona State. That was all on Saturday. On Sunday, number 8 Michigan improves to 7-2, continues to play well inside the Big Ten, beats the 21st team in the country, Penn State, who is falls to 9-2, win the game 11-6, hold Penn State to 2-2-0-2 in their score breakdown. They jumped out to a huge 4-2 lead and then improved it to 9-4 at halftime before cruising to that victory. Johns Hopkins, their women also take care of business against Ohio State 18-12. They're 10-1 now, number 7 team in the country. Ohio State falls to 6-4. I think they might even fall out of the rankings as well. That was all that was notable from there, but you had something notable happen in the D2 ranks, I believe.
Yeah, this is why you believe in a D2 school right here. All right. Lees McRae, I don't remember what they started at. They were like 2-4 or something, or 2-3. It was something bad. They were getting blown out. There was no offense. And then they go out and admittedly they play an 0-9 team, but they put up 33 goals. 33-1 final score. I mean, it took them till 13:48 left in the fourth for the other team to score. So they outshot Shorter 64-14. 48 of them were on goal compared to 7. So I mean, hey, 50% of Shorter's shots were on goal. It's solid, I guess.
That's actually great.
They won 27 of 37 faceoffs, and they Shorter had 38 turnovers, but they made 15 saves. So
I mean, it could have been worse.
It really could have. Actually, I don't know if it could have. I've never seen a score be 33-1. But
dude, did I ever tell you the story of how the mercy rule existed for high school tournament lacrosse here in Michigan?
No.
There's a school called Bay City Central. You remember the Modi City Hitmen, right?
Uh-huh.
Surge. The high school he went to, Birmingham Brother Rice. They played Bay City Central back in 2016, 17, 18, somewhere around there, in the first round of the playoffs. They beat them 42-0. And the state proceeded to add a mercy rule in the playoffs that if you're getting beat by 18 or more after the second half, the game is over. Like after the second half starts, the game is over. So after halftime. I don't know why I said after second half. But yeah, after halftime. That is the origin story behind that. So yes, it in fact can be worse. And if he had not made those saves, it would in fact have been worse.
That's
insane, right?
wow. That's
And they had like
okay.
backups behind backups in. Like it wasn't like they had the starters in running the score up. Like it was just
That's so
bad.
sad.
Yeah.
Well, hey, the game that Lee's played on Wednesday was also a 10-9 win, so a little bit more realistic. But 2-0 in the week.
Hey, both
7-5
scores,
overall.
Both those scores are realistic. We've seen them happen on multiple occasions on both sides. That's all
I'm gonna be honest.
saying.
If I got beat 33-1, I'm retiring on spot. I'm hanging them out. I'm like, Coach, look at us. I'm asking. I'm going to the NCAA directly, asking, hey, can we please be demoted to D3?
I'm screaming. You might
an NAIA
You might get
designation?
beat worse than that in D3. Depending on who you play, they might really give you the work.
Hey, at that point, can we go be a JUCO team? Because this is
Shit, a few of them NAIA teams is like that too.
Don't
go play Onondaga. Don't go play Onondaga.
Let's see. I mean, to be 0-9, I just credit to them for even showing up.
Facts. That's rough. That's extremely rough.
Yeah, I'm looking at their schedule right now. Every game is like this. 25-2, 23-zip, 24-2, 21-0, 23-0, 35-4, 25-0, 30. Oh my goodness, they lost 33-1 twice.
Oh my god.
They lost to North Greenville 33-1 on March 4th. 3 days later, they lose 33-2 to Chowan University. And 2 weeks later, they lose to Lees McRae 33-1. So they've given up 99 goals in their last 3 games and scored a combined 4.
My God. That's awful.
Outscored 124-4 in their last 4 games.
No.
Yeah, this is not.
That's not real. That's not real.
I don't want to believe it, but that's what this is.
That's insane. That's insane. Running through D3 before my brain absolutely blows. Tranny takes care of Kalamazoo 13-5. Trine takes care of the Centenary boys from Louisiana 20-4. I mean, giving them a taste of their own medicine. And I was like, we were talking about that pre-pod, and you were like, hey, ain't that one team? And I was like, yeah, bro. He was like, they got held to 4?
I didn't know that was possible.
Dude, yeah, they got shut all the way down. Absolutely given the belt by Trine there. Bumping over to Saturday. St. John Fisher took care of Cortland 10-8, 10-6, 10-8. Calvin beat North Central 9-7. Calvin on a roll there here in the MIAA. Centenary bounces back, and they beat Hanover 18-10. Skidmore over RPI 16-12. Skidmore is putting a couple nice wins together recently. Dickinson falls again to Washington, Colorado. Washington, I think that's Colorado. Washington College, maybe. It's COL. Who knows? 10-9. Alma beats Hiram 8-7 in overtime. Elmhurst beats Kenyon 15-14 in overtime. I bet that was a phenomenal game. Albion over Carthage 14-8. Tufts over Trinity 17-11. Christopher Newport over Amherst 12-9. Salisbury over Stevenson 20-9. What a bounce back after their loss at the Callum Robinson Mustang Classic. St. Lawrence over Union 11-10. Ohio Wesleyan over Denison 12-9. Oh man, big win. Bowdoin over Wesleyan, Connecticut 17-12. St. Vincent over Muskingum 11-10. York over Grove City 17-9. RIT wins with ease 21-9 over Vassar. Concordia, Wisconsin rolling through teams in the Midwest. 20-4 over Benedictine. Dubuque wins 20-1 over Marion from Wisconsin. Hope beats Carroll from Wisconsin 23-7. Big blowouts this weekend. That's insane. I wasn't expecting to see some of those scores like that. Tufts beats Stevens 18-7. Arcadia over Widener 12-8. Both of those on Sunday. And that's really all that happened this weekend, D3. Anything else on your mind across any level from this past weekend?
No, we covered about everything.
Yeah, kind of a quiet week. Nothing really crazy to be up in arms about this week, which I'm happy about. Don't get me wrong. Not delaying half of our episode to talk about some crazy thing. So I'm happy with that. But yeah, it was a very mild weekend. Maybe this upcoming weekend won't be so wild. Anything on your mind that you're looking forward to seeing this upcoming weekend?
Well, before I don't want to give away the Riverside game of the week, but
yeah, no, can't do that. But you can point
I'll
out some other good ones.
But Maryland, Michigan, to me is it's honestly it'll probably end up being a dumb blowout. And people
Whoa,
Maryland's
don't be saying
back.
all that. There's beef.
Stop.
There's beef there. Don't forget,
I don't care what there is.
Hey, Maryland hasn't beat Michigan in like the last 4 or 5 games that they played Michigan. So, is also even when Michigan wasn't like really all that good. So now,
if it's a good game, I hope it is.
Right now, Maize and Blue has the Terps by the goddamn balls.
I'm not gonna complain if that ends up happening. I'm just setting myself up because I don't feel like that's gonna end up being the case.
I'm trying to talk myself into it. Okay,
I feel it. There's a lot that rides, I think, on that for Maryland's playoff hopes, and I just think it'd be good to get Michigan another win. Honestly,
they need it bad.
Yeah. Georgetown, Denver. I'll be at that one, so that'll be fun, especially after Brian brought up Georgetown potentially winning the Big East and whatnot. This game has major implications. Excuse me. Penn State, Ohio State. We'll see which version of Penn State shows up, I guess. But it could be fun if the good version of them shows up. Would love to see them try to run Ohio State off the field, essentially. And then getting into Sunday with Hop and Rutgers, and then Harvard, North Carolina is going to be fun as well. So, yeah.
This weekend's loaded. The Sunday slate's absolutely great. Once again, 2 great games. Back-to-back with one another that we basically got this weekend with the games that we got there. I think Notre Dame, Virginia says a lot. Maybe Virginia really steps up and sees the opportunity they have in front of them and how things are slipping away. Maybe they give Notre Dame a run, and that spices things up over the next couple of weeks. I I think Dartmouth and Penn is actually low-key sneaky game that could be really good based off of how those two teams are playing against teams. Obviously, I'll be keeping an eye on the Richmond-Hobart game to see if Richmond continues to just plow through and dominate teams as they've done all season. I imagine the one game you didn't bring up is one I won't say because I'll allow you to wait and have that be your Riverside game of the week. And then, of course, Ohio State, Penn State. Can Penn State keep moving up the rungs and continue putting the pieces together and kind of put another damper in Ohio State's season, or will Ohio State cruise through the Big Ten? The questions are the questions. Looking at the women's slate for this upcoming weekend, looking to see if there's anything notable coming up there. Syracuse and Pittsburgh, 10 a.m. ACC Extra on Saturday. That's 24 versus 5. Syracuse to 5 there. I mean, the absolute mid-off between Detroit Mercy and Central Michigan, 0-7 versus 1-9. Going to happen on Saturday there. Man, these ranked matchups are really slowing down in the women's slate. I knew that was going to happen. We got front-loaded.
Yep.
Where there was like a ton of ranked matchups back to back to back to back to back. Here we go. Sunday, Penn State, Maryland, 22-3. Big Ten plus, 12 p.m. Penn State going to try and knock into Maryland's undefeated season and put a blemish on it. Penn State's 9-2, Maryland 10-0. Hopkins is 10-1, number 6 in the country now, 2 p.m. on BTN, taking on 12th ranked Northwestern, who's 6-3. 6-4 Oregon takes on 7-2, number 9 in the country, Michigan on Big Ten plus, 1 p.m. as well on Sunday. And then Yale and Army 16-8 on Tuesday at noon. What kind of time is that? At least you have Syracuse and Cornell later that day, 7 p.m. on ESPN Plus. But what are we doing? ESPN Plus at noon on a Tuesday? Noon Eastern time. So that's like 10 a.m. for you.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Yeah,
That's what
most
you were
games
talking
actually are at 10 a.m.
That's what you were talking about, dog. When you
Yeah.
were like, these times suck. Like, what is that?
Yeah, it depends. Like sometimes it's real optimal. Like NFL season starting at 11 a.m., it's sick. But sometimes starting at 10 a.m. and there's like 15 games at the same time, I'm like, bro, I can't.
Facts.
I'm on a cup of coffee trying to keep up with every single game going on. Like,
Did you see anything in D2 you wanted to point out for this upcoming
oh,
weekend?
hang on. I didn't even double check. Where are my boys at this weekend? Let's see. Assuming they don't have a bye. No. Okay, they play Young Harris, TBA, on Saturday. And then that's their only game this week from my count. So a chance to go 8-5 for the boys.
Okay. That would really be putting it together. A chance for them to win that conference tournament. Looking in the D3, Alma and Hanover kick things off on Friday for the games I care about. No offense to anybody out there. Allegheny and St. Vincent. Tufts and Middlebury. MIT and Springfield, Trine and Capital, Lynchburg and Roanoke, RIT and Skidmore, who's on a train right now, Dickinson and Swarthmore, Hope and Spalding, Otterbein and Mountain Union, Wittenberg and Kenyon, Stockton and Christopher Newport, Muhlenberg and Gettysburg. Bergs for everybody. You get a berg, I get a berg, they get a berg, everybody gets a berg. Union versus RPI. Grove City and Chatham. John Carroll versus Denison. Amherst versus Bowdoin. Calvin versus Illinois Wesleyan. Kalamazoo versus Carroll, Wisconsin. Albion versus Elmhurst. That's going to be a game. That is going to be a game. And I believe that is all that's notable from D3. With that being the case, that's going to take us right into our Riverside games of the week, which are powered by, yes, you guessed it, Riverside. We made the switch to Riverside a couple months ago as a company and has changed our entire productivity level on its head. From enhanced audio quality and episodes, easy-to-use editing tools, including a built-in editing bay for all of our shows on the network, and the fastest way to cut clips, segments, and funny moments for all of our shows. Plus, it is an absolute bargain compared to the competitors. Use our link in the description to get your podcast, webinars, or video projects looking and sounding pristine with Riverside. Nephew, what is your Riverside game of the week?
To the surprise of absolutely no one, Syracuse Duke, 5 versus 6. I think this is Duke's first real test all season long. And I think this is a good game for Cuse to have in their back pocket as well, if they can get the win. I know they had those 2 losses early and people were kind of freaking out a little bit, but they bounced back super well and are 8-2 now. So if they get to 9-2 against a team like Duke, that'd be huge for them.
I want to say there's some other game to pick, but that's absolutely the Riverside game of the week. There's nowhere else to go. This is going to be the one that all of us have our eyeballs on, and is easily the best game of the weekend. But I also think Harvard, North Carolina needs to have some words said about it. That's going to be a great game. Harvard 7-0, North Carolina 8-1, both impressive resumes coming in, both playing great lacrosse. That's going to be a great game. Rutgers continues to push people to the brink. John Hopkins has had their struggles at times, so I think that game is also going to be very fun and very close. So I think Sunday is just a blockbuster all around. But then at the top of the list is Syracuse Duke, 100%. So before we get out of here, don't forget to follow the pod everywhere. DU Industries on Twitter, at the Underground Industries on Twitter, or on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcast. Follow and subscribe to OTB Pod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere, on YouTube at youtube.com/OTB You'll see full video episodes of this podcast. You'll also see exclusive of interviews, Sporkle, and other lacrosse-centric content over there. Don't forget to follow my nephew across from me at Hoots Sport Media. Follow me at Uncle Deeds12 on Instagram, and also SCS_next grade on Twitter. You can find all my other socials there. Follow the man behind the scenes, KBizzle311 on Twitter, or KBIZZL311 on Twitter, KBizzle11 on Instagram. You can find all his other socials there. Hook you up and get in on those fridge facts. They come daily and they are pristine. So once again, this has been another episode of Outside the Box College. This has been episode number 9. We're going to be back next week previewing and recapping everything happening in the college lacrosse world. Enjoy another weekend of college lacrosse and have an amazing weekend. We'll be back next week with more here on OTB College. Peace.